Hey guys, Basement Horrors here, and welcome to the latest installment of True Horror Stories. Make sure you stay at the end of the video for special information and extras. Number 1. Hey all, I've been allergic here for a while, but today something happened that I felt I had to share with no sleep. The only word I can think of to describe the way I feel right now is shocked. I'm writing because, to be honest, I'm a little freaked out right now. Just to clarify, I'm totally fine. It's my friend Kate who I'm worried about. She just returned from a few days of paid vacation that she spent camping in the Adirondacks, and just contacted me about what happened during her trip. Below is the email she wrote me. I think she wrote it both to get her own thoughts straight as well to share the story. So I'm pasting her recap of the story, unedited, right below. Since it was addressed to me, there's going to be a few things you won't get, but they don't really affect the overall main points. Anyway, here it is. Begin email. I've always loved nature. You know that. The fresh air, natural sounds, just being able to take a break from the world. It's all there. Like I've told you many times, I'll take a weaving walk between pine trees and thorny underbrush over a weaving commute between solemn-faced New Yorkers any day of the week. And last week, when life got a little too hectic, I decided to do just that. The breakup with Steve last Tuesday really had just been the icing on the cake. I don't know, I told you about this briefly, but it ended pretty ugly. He didn't take it well. But then again, we didn't really expect him to, did we? Should have listened to that old advice. Never date a coworker. He just got too clingy and possessive. Ugh, whatever, we'll catch up on that another time. Point is, after all that garbage, I was done. I planned to use some of my new vacation time at work and scheduled a few days long solo camping in the Adirondacks. My family used to go to camping there all the time when I was young. It's just therapeutic for me now. I packed everything a day in advance to make sure I was ready. A tent, a sleeping bag, cooking supplies and food, flashlights with extra batteries, first aid kit, and even my new camera. I wanted to make sure I got some great shots of the outdoors. That way I'd have something to put on my wall when I got back to work and needed a pick-me-up. There were a few things I certainly wasn't bringing, though. I was leaving my iPhone, laptop, and all more modern stuff at home. It's not like I'd have Wi-Fi or be able to charge them out there anyway. One small concession, though. I did opt to bring my old iPod. Music and nature meshed together pretty nicely, and it's a bit obsolete now, so no worries if I lost it. Anyway, I was all set to go and ready to rock and roll. The next day, I woke up bright and early, drove out a few hours, and ditched my car in one of the camper lots, and I went off. It was amazing. I hadn't been hiking or camping in years. It was exactly what I needed after a couple particularly rough weeks. After a couple of minutes bobbing along to my own beat, the past few weeks had become a distant memory, washed away like the dirt off my boots, when I jumped into the first creek I found. Alright, yeah, I know wet socks and hiking don't mix, but I was just too stoked to be out in the wilderness again. Anyway, things were pretty uneventful for most of my first days, until around late afternoon. As the sun started to set, the light filtering through the trees started striking me right in the face. I held up a hand to block it, cursing myself for getting my sunglasses. You can never remember everything, right? When I took away my hand for a moment, I noticed my arm had been blocking the view of something up ahead. A person. I'm not the type to make friends with random hikers in the woods, but I was in such a good mood that I continued on my way and approached the stranger. I waved a quick salutation as I got closer, and he returned in kind. Hi there, I said enthusiastically. I'm Kate. Nice to meet you. Have you ever gotten that feeling that someone is a bit off, and you can tell within a few seconds of meeting them? Well, I got that feeling from this guy. Hard. Oh, hello. What's a pretty girl like you doing way out here? He replied. Not the creepiest thing he could have said, but I still don't really like the way he said it. Camping, I chirped back. Out of the city for a few days to get away from it. Oh, you know? He tilted his head. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not from the city, but I know what you mean. Sometimes you just need to get away from people. His voice trailed off as he stared off into the distance. Then he promptly snapped his eyes back towards me. Are you camping with anyone else? He asked, leaning forward slightly. I suddenly felt very uncomfortable. Yes, my boyfriend. He's nearby scoping out a campsite for tonight. I lied, feeling my face grow hot. I'm actually a terrible liar. Why would we split up during hiking? I doubt he actually believed me. He was silent for a moment before replying. Oh, alright then. Well, you two be careful, you hear? There's a lot that could happen out here. He smiled slightly, nodded his head, and then walked off. He never even told me his name. Weird. I suddenly felt a lot more vulnerable out in the heart of where I've always used to felt at home. I shook off the chill running down my spine. He was probably just another hiker, just a little bit weird. Nothing to freak out about. Regardless, I did notice that the sun was getting close to setting, and I needed to set up camp. A few minutes of hiking later, I found a suitable spot. I unloaded everything from my pack and set up my small tent pretty quickly. I felt pretty accomplished after doing that, and made sure to take a photo of my newly finished tent. Something to bring along next time I see my parents to show them that I've still got that nature girl in me. After that, I was scavenging around the area for enough wood to sustain a fire, cooked a quick dinner, and laid down next to the small fire I had going. This was another one of my favorite parts, just listening to the nighttime sounds. Cricket chirps, occasional owl hoots, and even the incessant cries of the whippoorwill were all a welcome change of pace for me. Stargazing was also a favorite, but the sky wasn't that good that night because there was a near full moon outshining most of the stars. It was pretty cold later that night, since it still wasn't summer yet, so I was bundled up tight in my tent and took a bit of time to doze off. Compared to the past couple of weeks of trying to sleep, I felt totally relaxed. No need to wake up early for work tomorrow, or to deal with the hassle of commuting. I could sleep in and rest. Not even the nearby crackling of underbrush I heard from the raccoon or fox walking up was going to rattle me, even though it used to freak me out as a child. Even though it didn't freak me out anymore, I slipped in my earbuds and played some relaxing songs from my iPod as I dozed off, just to be sure that it wouldn't keep me up through the middle of the night. I slept like a rock that night, and woke up refreshed and ready to go midway throughout the morning. After deconstructing my campsite, I continued on my way, going with the route I had planned out before starting my trip. The second day was even greater than the first. I hadn't felt that alive in years. I made sure to snap a bunch of nature photos throughout the day, and even took a few shameless selfies of me in the woods. I also met a few campers and hikers. They were a nice couple around my age, maybe a little bit older. I had a nice 10-minute chat with them, and found out they had a lot in common with me. They actually reminded me a bit of me and Steve early in our relationship. Before things started to suck. I didn't think of that at the time, but I did after that. They happened to ask me an interesting question. They asked if I was camping out with my boyfriend. I was a little taken aback. The question had resurfaced some recent memories, and I didn't want them on my mind. But I told them it was just me. They said they had run into another guy not too long ago who said he'd been camping with a girl, but they were separated for a bit. That was interesting. The Adirondacks were a bit more crowded than I remember them being, especially since it really wasn't even camping season yet. The nights are still a bit too nippy for most. Not this couple, though. They both loved nature and were psyched to be out here and about. I actually kind of wish I'd stayed with them. Maybe then my trip would have turned out differently. Anyway, I tried to paint a pretty clear picture of what happened to the trip for me so far, so that I can frame what happened next a little bit better. Remember what Danny always said? Things get real quick, man. Well, things are about to get real. When the sun started to set, I packed my second campsite that I'd be using from the upcoming night. I did everything pretty much identical to what I described last night. Set up tent, firewood, cooking, fire, etc. When I was through soaking up the stars and nature sounds, I got into my tent for the night, curled in my sleeping bag, and started to get ready to sleep. I wasn't tired yet, though, so I decided to reflect on my day a bit. Hanging my flashlight and a makeshift lantern, I rummaged through my belongings until I found my digital camera. I started going through all the pictures I had taken over the course of the day. There were some really great nature shots. Also, my lovely selfies, of course. I think I went a little bit overboard on the trees, though. After going through the 10th seemingly identical tree shot, I just skipped the camera, started the picture so I could see what else I had taken before going tree crazy. I accidentally went a bit too far, though. I still had those most recent memories of me and Steve on there. It's seriously like that thing just keeps following me everywhere. I hastily skipped forward through those before getting to the photos of me on the start of the trip. There was one of me waving goodbye to my car, i.e. civilization, the first creek I found, and a few shots from the first day. Then there was a shot of my tent that I had taken right before I finished setting it up, before wandering around to get firewood. I clicked forward to the next picture. Another shot of my beautiful tent. I stopped, curious. This one was taken when it was way darker. The tent was visible only by moonlight. I froze and it dawned on me. I had not taken that picture. My heart started to race. No, calm down, I thought to myself. Maybe you did take that picture, right before bed. Hands trembling, I clicked toward the next picture. It was my tent, lit by moonlight. Again. My heart was pounding like a jackhammer at this point. I didn't know what to think. I clicked forward again. My tent, lit by moonlight, but closer, taking up more of the frame. No, this can't be real. I clicked forward again. An even closer shot of my tent, with almost none of the dark surrounding woods visible. I was about to cry from how freaked out I was. Please stop now, but I had to know. I couldn't stop myself from clicking forward again. This time a hand invisible in the picture, reaching towards my tent zipper. I was now fighting back sobs of terror. Click. A hand unzipping my tent's flap. Click. A hand inside my tent. Click. Me. Sleeping. Click. I couldn't stop myself. I let out a big sob of terror at this point. Just then I heard a loud crack outside my tent, like I had surprised something with the noise. I became dead silent, straining to hear anything of the sound of my furiously beating heart. Silence. I don't know how I did it, but I didn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't open my eyes. I just laid there, paralyzed by fear, realizing my life could end at any moment. After an eternal, the hot breath was gone. Eternity, the hot breath was gone. I heard more movement, then a zipper, then stealthy footprints slowly moving away, but not before I heard one last thing. After a few steps, the footsteps stopped, and when they uttered 3 last words that will haunt me until the day I die. Sweet dreams, Kate. I lay awake the entire night, twitching at any sound, too afraid to do anything. The moment the sun came up, I was out of there. I packed up everything in record time and retraced my path to Strung Power Walk, checking over my shoulder and looking around everywhere. Meanwhile, my mind was racing. How did they know my name? I really don't know. Could it have been that creepy hiker I met the first day? I have no idea. I got back to my car and immediately called the police. As I told them what had happened and insisted I had proof, I had the worst possible realization. I had been so freaked out, speeding out, packing that morning, that I hadn't even realized until that moment. My camera was gone. Did I drop it or leave it behind? I can't say for sure. I think that creep must have grabbed it when he was right next to me in the tent. It had been in arm's reach. The police said that they would look into it, but I'm not sure how they can investigate this. I couldn't get an exact location where my campsite was, and what could they do with that information anyway? As I write this now, I'm thoroughly freaked out and just trying to get everything that happened. I still have another scheduled day of paid vacation that I really need, so I'm going to stay in tomorrow and just try to get my thoughts in order. Thank you for listening to me throughout this. I am just so rattled, it's unbelievable. If you have the time, I would really appreciate it if you could come meet with me and talk to me tomorrow. End email. Number 2. This happened to me a few years ago, but I've still never found a good rationalization for what happened. Maybe you have an idea. I attended a very rural, very small, and very expensive university. In an attempt to graduate early, just to spare myself a little student debt, I decided to take some summer classes between my freshman and sophomore years. On the surface, not a bad plan, but I did run into some trouble finding housing for the summer semester. My family lives about 4 hours away from campus, so I couldn't commute, and the university rents out the dorms to different camps and retreat groups when school is not in session, so I couldn't live there either. Off-campus housing was virtually non-existent because, like I said, very small and rural campus. The nearest apartment complex was the next town over, and I didn't even have a car. Luckily, a friend of mine, who went home for the summer, let me sublet your room in a place the students like to call the Yellow House. The Yellow House was an extremely old farmhouse, less than a half a mile off campus, and usually visited by missionaries. The college is religiously aff- affiliated, or grad students. During the school year, it was always filled with people attending parties, Bible studies, or just generally hanging out. However, during the summer, there were only 3 renters, 2 grad students who mostly kept to themselves, and me. I should know that the Yellow House didn't have a creepy vibe to it, even though it was at least 100 years old. It was decrepit, usually dirty. Previous renters just left whatever they couldn't pack or didn't want anymore, and lacked some basic amenities. But it felt homey, not weird. I even had a pretty decent-sized room, all to myself, toward the front of the house. I was a little worried about people coming in and out the front door at night while I tried to sleep, but as it turned out, nobody used that entrance. The house's driveway curved around the back, and there was a huge parking area, so everyone just used the back door. One of the grad students lived in a small converted washroom and mudroom near the back of the house, and the others lived upstairs. For the 3 of us, it was plenty of space, and we mostly spent our time either at class or in our rooms. The Yellow House was pretty isolated, though. The farm it sat on had been subdivided into different properties. Even there were a few newer houses sat on fairly large plots. As we found out, you could have a pretty decent-sized party without disturbing anyone. The Yellow House sat back from a quiet country road. No streetlights and almost no traffic, especially during the summer. To make matters worse, I never got a key to the house since the missionaries all left without making me a copy. So we left the kitchen door unlocked at all times so I could get in. Stupid, I know, especially since we were all shrimpy girls. But I was in such a rural, sleepy community, none of us thought anything bad could happen. We were wrong. The perception of the Yellow House was pleasant, if dull. Residence was shattered about halfway through the summer semester. One night, I was woken up around 2 in the morning by what sounded like the screams of mortal terror coming from the back of the house. I've never heard anything like it before or since. Whoever was yelling sounded terrified, and they occasionally punctuated their screech with comforting phrases like "why" or "oh no." It truly sounded as though they were staring into the face of death, and they seemed to go on for ages. Then the screams stopped. I lay beneath the covers, heart beating a mile a minute, listening for any noise in the house, any sign of movement. That night, the grad student who lived upstairs was at a party, and I didn't hear the grad student who was in the room back of the house open her door to check the noise. Remember, this house was old. Every door creaked, every floorboard cracked as you walked. If she or anyone else moved around in the house, I would have been able to hear them, but I didn't hear anything. Slowly, I grabbed my cell phone and called the cops, telling them that in the smallest voice possible that I heard screams coming from inside of the house, and that I was worried that something bad had happened to my housemate. They told me to stay on the line, and they were sending someone over. I waited there, curled beneath my sheets. I was sure I was going to die that night. I was positive that someone had come into the house through the unlocked back door, murdered my housemate, and was waiting to make a move on me. I listened for the sound of the back door opening, and listened for the sounds of footsteps. I listened for breathing, but all I heard was my own heartbeat. Even so, I was pretty sure I was going to die. Finally, I heard the sound of a car outside, and figured it was a police cruiser. I finally heard them enter the house, and heard them enter my housemate's bedroom. Finally, an officer came to my bedroom, but even in the dark, I could see something was wrong. He told me that my housemate was fast asleep, and that he had to wake her up to ask her if she was okay. She assured him that he was, and told him that she hadn't heard a thing. I was shocked, and I think the officer could see it in my face, because he never accused me of making a prank call. I insisted that someone had been screaming inside my house from the kitchen, loud enough to wake me up. Even someone who slept like a dead even someone who slept like the dead should have been waking up by those screams. The officer didn't really know what to tell me, and said that he'd make sure a car drove by a house that night, just to make sure it wasn't someone pranking us. But beyond that, there wasn't anything he could do. I told my friends this story, and they all seemed to agree that the prankster was the likely culprit, but I'm not sure I buy that. That campus was, for the most part, deserted, so anyone interested in pulling something like that was likely on break. Plus, I lead a pretty quiet life, and as far as I know, the grad students weren't particularly controversial. Who would go through the effort to prank us? Even if it was a prank by a local, I should have heard them leave through the back door while I was waiting for the police. And of course, my housemate should have heard the screams too. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, like, subscribe, and check out my other videos. Also, make sure to tell me what kind of videos you'd like to see on the channel in the comments. Also, if you have any personal horror stories, original creepypastas, or original artwork you'd like featured on the channel, send it in to basementhorrors@gmail.com. Also, if you have any questions for me for a potential Q&A in the future, ask them in the comments as well. That's it for this video. So until next time, have a horrific day.